Hi, guys. Welcome to the Better Man podcast. My name is Eric, and joining me today is Phaedon from Cape Coffee Beans. Phaedon, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks, Eric. How are you?
Yeah, good, man. I'm excited for this talk. Not only because I've been a customer of yours, and I really, really just love your business, but I think there's a lot that we can learn from you, and especially we're talking about e-commerce, and that is pretty much your life at the moment.
That's right. Yeah. That's it. Cape Coffee Beans is full time for me now. I've worked in e-commerce for a while, even before Cape Coffee Beans. But yeah, I guess you could say I've been living and breathing it for a couple of years.
Awesome. So tell me about that a bit. What were you doing before Cape Coffee Beans?
So immediately prior to Cape Coffee Beans, I actually was freelancing to a few e-commerce businesses, which was a great way to get some learnings from what some other people were doing. And before that, I worked for an e-commerce business called Zando, which you
Yes.
might be familiar with, the online
Mm.
fashion store.
And so since from there you went straight into Cape Coffee Beans.
That's right. Yeah. So I came down to Cape Town, worked for Zando for some time. I was on the ops side there, learned a lot from that experience. Then I left Zando, freelanced, consulted to a few other e-commerce businesses, which was an equally valuable learning. And then launched Cape Coffee Beans part time while I was still freelance consulting. And then gradually moved to full time on Cape Coffee Beans, which happened about a year ago.
Okay. And I mean that's always the challenge is like knowing when to make that shift. And I think more importantly, finding the time to juggle a full-time job and a side project.
Yeah, I definitely think that's challenging. I must admit, so when I was launching Cape Coffee Beans, I was actually only working 50% time for the client I
Okay.
was working with at the time. Um, I have to admit that if I was working a full-time job, I don't know. I don't want to say that it would have been impossible, but it definitely would have been more challenging.
All right. So what made you go into coffee? Why Cape Coffee Beans?
So it was a few things. I mean, the first thing was that personally, I was getting much deeper into coffee around that time. I haven't always been a coffee fanatic. It's something that I've actually gotten into a lot here in Cape Town because I think Cape Town has a fantastic and pretty
Oh yeah, for
accessible
sure.
coffee scene. And I was getting more into my coffee. I bought my first grinder and I was just spending more time thinking about coffee. And it happened to be happening around the same time that I was also thinking about what I wanted to do. And I definitely felt I had an entrepreneurial itch to scratch and I was keen to do my own thing. So, that kind of personal interest was a big component of it.
Mm.
But as I started to make those connections, admittedly, coffee also jumped out at me as potentially a really good fit for e-commerce. Um,
Okay.
e-commerce has a lot of challenges. One of the big ones being logistics and weight of the products you're going to be shipping and ongoing demand and recurring business. And we can go into some more detail about that stuff if you
Mm.
want. But it was kind of a combination of coffee was really personally interesting to me, and I also felt it was a good fit for e-commerce.
Okay. So what was the start like? I mean, I'm sure you're familiar with minimal viable products and all of that. Did you go through like a testing phase where you said, I have this idea, I want to test it first?
Absolutely. I definitely, even though I have to admit that I haven't read the Lean Startup book in full, I'd say that I adhered to the principles pretty closely.
Uh-huh.
Um, so I came up with the idea. One of the first things I did actually was I went and pitched the idea to a couple of coffee roasters, the first two coffee roasters I worked with, which was actually Turbador and Haas. One's based in Franschhoek, one's based in Stellenbosch. And I kind of said to them, if I set this up, would you be keen? Would you sell me your coffee? And they said yes. And so then pretty quickly, I needed to find a way to do that. So I launched my site with Shopify.
Okay.
Um, and yeah, I mean, I built the site over the course. Well, built the site. Shopify does most of that for you, but I set up the site within a few days, set up a payment gateway, and within a few days, I was set up to accept orders. There were only, I don't know, 6 or 7 coffees on the site at the time. Those were all the products. It was all on the homepage.
Okay.
But I set it up and I launched an AdWords campaign and got a few orders from friends. But it only took about 2 to 3 weeks before I got the first order from a name I didn't recognize. And then yeah,
Awesome.
just kind of built up from there.
Yeah, and I mean it's a slow process, and I think sometimes we think that you launch your site and it'll just be an overnight success, but really it takes a lot of time to actually build up to that point where you have enough volume coming in terms of traffic to convert that into customers.
Absolutely, absolutely. And look, everything that I've done at Cape Coffee Beans over the last, I guess, I think the site went live in November 2013, so it's been about 18 months now, but everything's been incremental, and
Yes.
every month has been a gradual improvement in terms of the traffic. I remember when I you've also interviewed about him coming on the site with Truth, he asked me how many unique visitors are you getting a month, and at the time the answer was 500.
Okay.
And and now it's many times that. I mean, it's sitting at kind of 5 or 6 thousand uniques a month and
Excellent.
continuing to grow. But yeah, it's a gradual process. I think in e-commerce particularly, it's hard to get that kind of hockey stick shaped curve
Mm.
graph that everybody shoots for. You've got to kind of grind it out and go step by step.
Where are you getting a lot of your traffic from?
So the mix has broadened. Initially, it was all AdWords, and I
Okay.
mean, if I were going to throw out a tip for anybody who wanted to do e-commerce early on, it's SEO is foundations you have to lay, but a way that you can get traffic tomorrow is a good AdWords campaign.
Mm.
Um, so AdWords was pretty much all the traffic and all the revenue initially. But now those seeds that I've planted with SEO have started to pay off. So actually, I get a good amount of organic traffic now too.
Excellent.
And social media has become important as well.
And if you say social media, is Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, which one is working for you? Phaedon? Seems we've lost him there for a little bit. Let's see if he pops back. Hello.